concept of detoxing is so enticing for people because we believe that we live in this world full of microplastics and mold and God knows what. What are the best ways to detox naturally?
The biggest thing is limiting the ultra-processed food consumption, because by trying to limit the ultra-processed food intake, that will entice you to try to focus on more whole foods and especially fiber. And I think that the best way really to detox is just aim to get your fiber. I mean, 30 grams for a female, 40 grams for a male. You know, most Americans I think about don't go get anywhere close to that goal. When you could be eating a fiber-rich food, you end up opting for the more easily accessible ultra-processed food. By focusing on these whole foods, you're gonna minimize at least your exposure to some of these microplastics. You can't get 100% away from it. I mean, there's always gonna be some exposure, but at least doing these things to make the changes on your own, I think that can be an exceptional tool to kind of detox naturally. It's actually just focus on natural fiber-rich foods and try to just meet your fiber goals.
Today on the Save Yourself podcast, I have a very special guest, my very own little brother, Dr. Ashil Gosalia. He is a board-certified gastroenterologist, actually double board-certified, just like me. So you could say my little tagline too, double board-certified MD. And I'm so excited to have him on.
Thanks for having me on again. Really appreciate the invite and looking forward to our chat.
I told you we're going to talk about like hot topics here because everybody wants our take on things, especially like coming from the GI background. What's your take on GLP-1s? Like, what's the deal? Should it be in the water? Like, is it the God's gift to medications? Like, what's the take?
Yeah, I think that it's an exciting world, especially for folks that are, having trouble losing weight and just can't seem to kind of get over the hump. I think with every medicine, right, you have to weigh the risks and benefits. In this case, the benefits are exceptional. I mean, people that prior had no ability to lose a certain amount of weight or just weren't able to overcome the challenges like food noise or just trying to overcome their genetics. This medicine is kind of a saving grace because we've seen lots of great results. But with the increased use, we have to acknowledge that there are always some risks. And even though it's a widely known safe medication, we still have to, especially in the GI world, we have to make sure we discuss with patients before starting some of these side effects that you can have with GLP-1s, including nausea, vomiting, slowing down of your gut motility, so people can get very constipated. And especially in folks that are already dealing with a lot of GI dysfunction, we do have to be very careful. While it's not a complete contraindication to start it, that's why it can't be in the water only because of that risk. There are some risks that we see with it, but I mean, like I said, it's with the research and all the new drugs coming out, I think that it's a really exciting time. But it also poses this unique challenges for us in our clinic.
What about all these people? I mean, you worked really hard on your weight loss for the last couple of years. Yeah. What about those people who are like, I need to lose 10 pounds. I'm just going to take a GLP-1 and they're not actually obese or don't have diabetes. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think that every person has their own choice, and people do this. We've been doing this since the dawn of medications, right? People using different types of supplements and things to try to make it easier to get those stubborn last 10 pounds off or whatnot. I think that that's where the risks of the medication come into play, right? Because it's not a completely zero harm medication. There are risks, and people that are trying to just jump on and off the medication, that's not really what they're meant for. We don't know yet. I mean, we have a lot of good data, but I mean, we don't know 20 years down the road, are there going to be a subset of people that develop, for example, like gastroparesis, where they're just the stomach never fully empties, and then that there can be real disability with that. So I think that that's where I usually have a very in-depth conversation. I have a lot of people ask me when they come in, like, is it okay if I start this? And I just go very, I'm just very frank that, it's not always, it's not a magic drug. No drug is, right? But it works really well when it works. But it also has some possible side effects. So especially when it's not a situation where it's going to really impact metabolic health, like fatty liver or diabetes, and it's just literally for the weight loss or just those last 10 pounds. I think that's a real conversation we have to have about is it worth the risks and benefits?
So I talked to a couple obesity medicine specialists, and I know that Nikki's also one, but there's one person in particular, a couple of people who think that basically anyone and everyone who's really struggling with weight loss, whoever they may be, should be on them. And it's like, I don't know, I guess for me, it's just like a very interesting thought because
Mhm.
if you think about it, I mean, isn't everyone, almost everyone kind of, trying to lean out just a little bit,
Yeah.
especially as we get older. And so
Mhm.
it's like, that means that everyone, really, almost everyone, will end up being on a small dose, which is really a weird thing. I do
Yeah.
predict my prediction. I'll ask you your prediction. My
Mhm.
prediction is that they're not going anywhere, that we're going to
Mhm.
have more and more indications for it. We're going to have more and more people on it. There's definitely going to be more and more side effects that will be uncovered where people will have to kind of decide if it's worth the risk and the benefit ratio.
Mhm.
And it's just going to be a new world where everyone's kind of like, a large majority of the population's on it. That's my prediction. What's yours?
Yeah, I agree. I think that as they get more and more fine tuned, and that's what kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing the drug companies kind of racing to hit more receptors, try to minimize and negate the side effects. Ozempic walks, all these new drugs can run. So
Yeah.
it's going to be an interesting next. I think even just 3 to 4 years down the road, I think we're going to see, like you said, a majority of people. Especially if the diet doesn't really change in our society. I think that you're going to see more and more folks that are going to be turning to these medications just because, the situation that we have with our food environment here is just kind of unfortunately predisposes people to gain a lot of weight and it's really hard to come down.
Okay, another hot topic. You have been in some of your social media videos pretty hard on the influencers who are, often talking about nutrition and health.
Mhm.
Like, tell me, what is the biggest myths or like things that people get wrong when they're watching these people on the internet? Like, what is the issue here?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with when especially when it comes to like the gut health is that there's this myth that our gut is inherently dirty, and in this situation, it's dirty, and that's chosen to be a connotate as a bad thing, that we're full of toxins and these bacteria. But we have billions and billions of bacterial diversity in our colon, and that is what makes our colon work. And so whenever the biggest pet peeve for me is anything that claims to be a detox, and especially a liver detox, because by definition, the liver is your detoxing organ. So if you need to take something to detox your liver, you're probably going to be really harming your liver because your liver is already supposed to be doing that on its own. And many times, what the biggest thing that I find is that you can actually harm yourself because these detoxes can actually be harmful to your health. And the biggest thing, and this is just my pet peeve, is enemas and coffee enemas. And I have
What
like
is a
multiple
coffee
videos on
enema?
it.
Just because people probably don't even know
Yeah.
what that is.
Yeah, so it's this. I don't know how it got into kind of into the mainstream wellness world, but it's essentially taking coffee and utilizing it by logically it has antioxidant effects, very helpful for gut motility. So that's why a lot of people that drink a sip of coffee run to the bathroom as soon as they have, and that's why a lot of people stay regular. People are now recommending trying to put the coffee literally through an enema bag up your rectum into your colon, and so literally, and it's not piping hot coffee. Obviously, if someone told you that, that's not a good thing ever to do. But even just normal coffee, there's no data that supports this. All the data that is supportive of this is just based on people saying, I did it and it worked for me, so it's going to work for you. But there's actually data that it can be very harmful. You're sticking things up there where there shouldn't be anything. You can tear your colon, injure your colon, and you can actually be way worse off than you were before. And honestly, coffee is a delicious drink. There's no need to stick it up your butt.
And anything enema, right, is like a red flag. Like if you're
Yeah.
buying something that's enema, unless your doctor has prescribed or specifically told you
Yeah.
to get that, like probably not a great idea to do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and and honestly, the concept of detoxing is so enticing for people because
Mhm.
we believe that we live in this world full of microplastics and mold and God knows what and heavy metals. And, what are the best ways to detox naturally for people who are like, okay, tell me the real way to detox?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that the biggest thing is limiting the ultra processed food consumption, because by definition, first of all, the ultra processed foods are I usually have the litany of ingredients that are super hyper addictive, super usually poor quality, lots of emulsifiers, things like that to make it look pretty, right? Or they're the ones that are packaged a lot of times in plastic and you put them in the microwave like prepared foods. And so I think that by trying to limit the ultra processed food intake, that by definition will entice you to try to focus on more whole foods and other things, and especially fiber. And I think that the best way really to detox is just aim to get your fiber. I mean, 30 grams or so for a female, 40 grams for a male. Most Americans, I think about the stats, upwards of like 3/4 of Americans don't go get anywhere close to that goal. And I think that because a lot of times when you could be eating a fiber-rich food, you end up opting for the more easily accessible ultra-processed food. And those foods can, that's what really hurts our GS. We have data on that. And that's probably what is the rise of all these colon problems that we have, like colon polyps and colon cancers. I think that's a big part. And, by focusing on these whole foods, you're going to try to minimize at least your exposure to some of these microplastics and all these things that are just so ubiquitous in our diet and our society. I mean, you can't get 100% away from it. I mean, there's always going to be some exposure. It's just that's how we live now, because that's just how it is. But at least doing these things to make the changes on your own, I think that can be an exceptional tool to kind of detox naturally. It's actually just focus on natural fiber-rich foods and try to just meet your fiber goals.
Yeah, I mean, so you're basically telling Laura that Taco Bell that she had earlier today is not a great idea. Once in a while, right? We had our Taco Bell days back, being Mexican pizza.
Yeah, bean burrito, next to be soft. I mean, I'm not against. Listen, I think it's some of it. The reason these foods are so good for our mental health, and for that little bit of like the comfort, the dopamine hit that you get from that. I'm not saying don't ever eat ultra processed foods, but I think that trying to focus more on these whole foods and fiber will naturally just make you lessen your intake of these ultra processed things.
You're one of like the busiest people I know, and I know there's a lot of busy people in this world, and you do a bunch of wellness, like you really incorporate some nutritional and exercise. And what are some of your biggest hacks or tricks or tips for people who are extremely busy, have little children, have demanding jobs, but still are trying to prioritize healthy living?
So I think first, for nutrition wise, I think meal prepping is huge. And really for me, I focus on one good, really solid meal that's a high protein and fiber fat kind of combination. So I've made the same protein waffles for the last like 2.5 years for breakfast. Everyone in my office knows what I'm eating. Everyone knows if I'm there because they see my waffles. And I just kind of use that as my big boost. I mean, I know you use the 30-33. So I basically, these waffles are like 30 or 40 grams of protein. And I put, some flax seeds in it. So you get the fiber and fat. So that's kind of what I've been doing during this whole journey, because then it's just, there's no excuse. I mean, I have my breakfast. I put some berries on in the morning. That's all I need to do. I just pack it and go. So it literally takes me 2 minutes.
Do you make it every morning, or do you make it in batches?
I make it in batches. So it's, if I try to make it I used to do it every morning, and then I realized that we were always late to everything. So I've now, with kids going to school and everything like that, I make about a week's worth, and Nikki also has it. So we just make, we made like 20 waffles over the weekend. And so I just have them ready to go, take them in the morning. And so that's kind of my main thing.
What's the quick recipe for that? Just for,
yeah.
I was trying to tell someone the other day, and I was like, shoot, I don't remember.
Yeah, I've given it out multiple times. So I should make a recipe book on just my waffles.
Yeah.
So basically, you have to first have a good waffle iron. Try to get like a four waffle kind of a pan, which you can get at Costco or wherever you want to get it. But it's basically 100 grams of egg whites, 100 grams of Greek yogurt, and then whatever flour mix you want to use. We use like Kodiak, which is a high protein, but you can do whatever flour you want. But typically that has enough kind of gluten in it to kind of keep everything together. And you just put it into the.
So 100 and how much?
100 and half a serving of, which is about 31 grams, which is a half a serving. So I have the food guide. I think it might be like a half a cup or maybe like a quarter of a cup. So you can experiment with that if you're like trying to be a little bit more on the bulking side. To add the carbs, you can put a full serving of the mix, but I use half just to keep myself on it.
Cool. Do you have to add any sweetener to it?
Yeah, I usually do a little bit of honey. If I'm doing, if I'm on a cut or trying to really limit, I will use a little bit of sugar-free kind of maple syrup or something, just a little tad, just to keep it sweet. I use blueberries. So frozen blueberries are a hack. So because what the frozen blueberry, they retain so much water when you warm them up, they actually kind of melt, but they still stay cold. They're not like hot. Versus fresh blueberries, they actually you can't put them in the microwave, other they explode. So I think the frozen blueberries is a great hack, and you get a lot for like half a serving of them. You get a lot of blueberries, and blackberries and strawberries are even more volume. So just depending on kind of what your goals are, I kind of switch up the fruit to try to keep myself full.
I love that hack. Okay. And
Yeah.
anything else?
Yeah, then I think the walking pad is has been my
Yeah.
saving grace. Yeah, so I think for all my patients, I have always recommended getting a walking pad or something or walking outside. But like for people like me, that by the time I have a chance to kind of catch up on whatever 7,000 steps I still need to get to 10,000 by the end of the night, I just pull that walking pad on. We watch TV, and we have to put the volume up loud on the TV just because the walking pad's so loud. But it's a way for me to get my steps in, and you really do see the difference on the scale and just how you feel in the morning, because you just kind of get all the gas out and everything everything that's been trapped up during the day, and it also just kind of gives you a little bit more of a better sleep. I think you're gonna get a little fatigued without overdoing it. I mean, you're not getting your heart rate up to like 140 right before bedtime. So I think it's a nice way to kind of wind down as well, because it's not overtaxing, but you still get the steps and the work in.
How long do you go on the walking pad for?
Depends. So like if I'm really behind my steps, it could be like a 30 minutes, but that's where we choose, that's where it's kind of our TV time sometimes. We just put it right in front of the TV and I do the walk back while we watch whatever show we're watching or a game, basketball, whatever's going on.
How many steps are you aiming for on a daily basis?
So I'm trying to go for 10K. I end up usually getting between 8 and 10K. Some days it just is too much. I mean, it gets late and I just have to stop where I'm at. I also need, the other hack is prioritizing sleep.
Yeah.
I think, if you're dead the next day because you're so tired, it's not worth trying to get those extra 2K steps. But, that's the goal. The goal is to get 100%. 10,000 steps a day to try to help with that, with everything, just gut motility and just overall weight loss and staying overall healthy.
What's another hack? You have so many.
Yeah. Yeah. So walking pad, the waffles, and I bring my big thermos with me for water. So I have a 40-ounce thermos that I'm taking to me with work, and my goal is finish that before I come home, and then fill it up when I get home, and try to get the rest of it down, about 3 hours before bedtime. Because if I try to chug it all at night, it's going to be a trouble. And I also do my creatine usually around in the evening when I come home, just to get myself.
Oh, you do creatine in the evening?
Yeah, I do creatine. I know some people take it in the morning. For me, I have my coffee in the morning. So that's kind of my coffee and my protein shake. I usually do that in the morning as well. So mixing the creatine, there's been some studies that the caffeine may blunt the effects of. So I end up just doing it at night. It doesn't seem to affect me. And some people can get a little bit more alert with it in the evening. But for me, it's just fine. I'm able to tolerate it.
What's your supplement routine look like?
Yes, we both are vegetarians, so for me, I want to make sure I get my omega-3. So we have like the flaxseed oil capsules.
Have you tried the vegan algae oil?
Yeah, so it's not flaxseed. You're right. It's the vegan DHA though. That's algae oil. Yep. So I do that. I do vitamin D because we're all deficient on vitamin D, and I do the creatine that we talked about, and I think sometimes I do a B complex just to kind of mix it up, but usually. I think with the protein shakes and things like that, everything's so supplemented with vitamin B. I don't think it's as necessary for me. And that's kind of my. I don't really take too many others than that. I mean, that's kind of my basic routine, just so I can make sure I supplement what I may be missing without having a meat intake.
Do you do a lot of protein powders and shakes? I mean, bars and powders?
I've gone away from the bars. I think they're usually it's only in my travels. And I think that's the same with you. It's like when we're traveling and when you may not have access to a great meal, like when you're on the plane or we're out of town. So I usually have that as my kind of my snack or even like a breakfast, just to minimize the amount I eat at, a hotel, for example, like a super carb heavy, meals. But mostly it's for travel and when we're on the go. That's instead of reaching for an easy snack, I get the protein bar and at least get a little bit over time, eat that, Usually I split it with Nikki, so we're not eating the full thing. Because if you eat a full protein bar, it's like a candy bar. I mean, you get a ton of
I think people
stuff.
don't realize it's like a Snickers with protein in it. I don't think like you'd probably not go for a Snickers every day, but you often people will eat multiple. I did multiple protein bars a day. So yeah, that's a big realization.
Yeah.
So funny. I was coming back from the Eudaimonia Summit that I was at this weekend. And just ironically, this weekend was like the most horrible food and exercise for me, not because the summit didn't provide it, but it was so busy and there was just like no time to exercise barely and like eat. I was wanting to get some good food, but I ran late to the airport and I hadn't eaten at an airport in a long time. And let's just say Palm Beach Airport did not have a ton of options. And so I got what I used to get all the time, like a string cheese and like the pretzel with the hummus chips and then like a protein bar. And I felt so sick because I was starving and I thought I would just do that to hold me over till I got to my destination. But just the amount of processed food that I ate, I was like feeling so, and it wasn't even that bad, but it was just like when you're not used to all that. And like now that my schedule is different, I don't have to rely on the bars as much. So it was definitely a challenge to like, you feel different. Like you feel different.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm traveling, if I eat a protein bar, you don't you get more bloated. It's the sugar, alcohols, all the sweeteners, and even if you get one that's like a little bit more clean, like that's or plant based or whatever, you're still getting a ton of just like just a ton of ingredients, and it's all kind of, and it's just not, I just don't feel like it's as good quality as if you had the same amount of stuff in a plated meal. You know what I'm saying? So I think that
exactly.
So I mean, I think it's good for a pinch. I use a protein shake when I'm really rushing. Like I'll make a protein shake with my coffee in the morning if I'm really in a pinch. But I try to minimize to like one shake a day at the most. And I try to focus on trying to get the rest through. Like I said, that's why I pack my waffles pretty heavy with the protein to try to at least get a third of my goal done before lunchtime, basically.
Is there any kind of go-to hacks that you have for dinners?
Yeah. So, for busy people and with people with kids, it's all about schedules. And so we have a set menu basically for most of the week. So I know what we're eating on Monday. I know Taco Tuesday. I know it's cliche as it is. We do it. The kids love to hear. Kids love to say Taco Tuesday. And then Wednesday we do some Indian like lentils or dals or something like that. And then Thursdays like pasta. So I kind of know what it is. So I've adjusted so I know kind of how much room I have with how many what my macro requirements are for that particular thing. But right now I'm on a small cut, so I'm a little bit carb restricted. Not heavy, but on the pasta day, for example, we use like the high protein pasta, like the lentil based pasta. But still, I mean, it's one serving is like
carb.
50.
Yeah, it's very high carb.
Very high carb.
I remember I would eat that lentil based pasta when I was counting macros, and like all my carbs for the day would be gone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like one serving, you have to do like a third of a serving.
Yeah.
And so those days, so we have a lot. We usually just make a big thing of tofu, and so I kind of so if it's a pasta, I'll just kind of make a little bit, stir fry it with some tofu and soy sauce. Just do something different, or I'll eat just a little bit and just make a smaller portion and just try to just plan it around there.
Do you guys all eat at the same time? Because I know obviously your schedules are so crazy.
Yeah, we do. We eat very early. I feel like a retiree. So we're
That's
like
awesome.
5:30. Yeah, 5:30. The kids are like starving. So we've all adjusted our clocks. It is challenging because at 5:30 eating, your body naturally gets hungry like 4 hours later, and 4 hours later like 9 o'clock. So
yeah,
that's the biggest challenge. I will admit. I mean, I'll raid the pantry a little bit for some snacks, and that's why I try to keep a little bit of that cushion so that even if I get the munchies, I can still keep it within my macros. And that's where also the creamy, I think, the creamy.
Yes,
right?
You're such a creamy fan.
Yeah, I'm a creamy guy. So it's like.
You're an ice cream person in general. I think you have to be an ice cream person to really enjoy.
Yeah. If you're like a warm dessert or a warm, or like someone that needs like,
snack.
Like a salty snack, it's not for you. But for me, a short beat's having a protein shake at like night, like if you need to hit your goals. But like you can get like a 200 calorie pint of ice cream, and it's not the same as eating it from like Ben and Jerry's or Haagen-Dazs, but it does hit the spot because it's all like what most of these, it's just volume. You just want to feel kind of full, full. And all these things just give you that volume, but you still can get hit with you still can get your protein goals and feel good,
What's your go-to recipe for that?
My creamy. So I think our best one is like a Oreo McFlurry dupe, So the Dairy Queen, or if you had the Blizzards or the Oreo McFlurries, whenever the machine would be working at McDonald's, it's basically there's a cookies and cream like protein powder that I use, and
What
that really
brand,
has.
if you don't mind
That
mentioning?
was it's Isopure. That one is the
Okay.
one we use. Yep. And so
Okay.
that cookies and cream seems to work really well. And then you just do almond milk and Fairlife skim, like a half and half mix of that. And it's about 480 ml. So I think 1 cup and 1 cup of each. And then you just mix in. You can put a little bit of sugar-free Jello pudding if you want to get a little bit more of the consistency to be a little bit more held together. Because the problem with the creamies when it's just protein powder and milk is it melts, is icy.
It's like
and
icy. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Icy.
it'll melt very quickly. So either you can do a tiny bit of xanthan gum, or you can put in this sugar-free mix. The benefit of the sugar-free mix is you can get like a white chocolate, which is supposed to be like the Oreo flavor. So that's really what kind of gets the flavor. So
Is that GI doctor approved? The sugar-free
so
Jello mix is?
yes, it is my. It's kind of like you said. It's the that's where I choose if I'm going to do an ultra processed kind of thing. That's when I'll probably have it. Is during the like that, because that just gives me. It's so beneficial for just my mind and like my just a calm. It's just like nice. It's like it fulfills the need that for a dessert without me running to eat the real thing and just completely destroy my goals.
Exactly.
So that's kind of how I do it. So and you just get some Oreo thins, and I put like a 2 or 3 Oreo thins. That's the nice thing about Oreo thins is that you can put 3 or 4, and it's not like it's the same as one Oreo.
I have not bought Oreo thins. I used to get those 100-calorie packs all the time. That was like what because I thought like, oh, that's so much better. It is better, obviously, to eat just a small amount.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a great use for that. That's actually a great recipe. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Another tell me another thing that you think really annoys you on the internet, because you're obviously now creating videos, watching other people's videos. There's a ton of doctors on there, and there's also a ton of misinformation. So what's another thing that people just kind of get wrong?
Yeah, I think it's the idea that we need to eliminate vegetables, eliminate fiber, and stick to just lean protein from meat and go carnivore. I mean, I think that it's widely known, widely studied, and it's just so evident that these diets in the long term are not going to be beneficial, especially for your heart health, but also for your GI health. We have so many, I have diagnosed so many colon cancers in young people. And I think that the amount of meat intake, and especially with people that are on these super low carb carnivore diets, they can develop really bad complications. Now, it works really well in the short term. I will tell you that it's an effective, rapid weight loss kind of a diet, but it's just like any crash diet. You lose all that weight, but you make long-term changes. There's a lot of inflammation that goes on. We've had many people that develop like colitis after they do this, and there's a lot of things that I think we don't have the studies that show those things, because it's really hard to put people on that type of diet and follow them. But we know when we look at patients with heart attacks, we know that when we look at patients with colon cancer, there's a lot of associations that if you reduce your fiber, don't have enough fiber, and you focus more on a saturated fat diet, right, you're going to increase your risk of having these kind of complications. And it feels like there's more and more movement toward people pushing for more and more saturated fat intake and moving away from the polyunsaturated fats, which actually are helpful. And that's, things from seed oils and things like that. And, I'm not saying that we should only be eating seed oils. I'm not saying that you should never eat meat. I think that it just goes to show us that, when you look back, the Mediterranean diet, which is a nice blend of all these things, probably in the long run will always win out over any of these extreme diets, one or the other.
It's so interesting. So Tim Spector from Zoe Health, I think you probably are familiar with him. He was at Pneumonia, and they were saying that everyone is obsessed with seed oil. Like if you talk to, they're like, it's not true in Europe, but when you talk to Americans, they were interviewing people like, what's the biggest problem in nutrition or something like that. And everyone kept saying seed oils. And they're like, it's really weird because you wouldn't get the same answer if you go to different parts of the world. For some reason, Americans love to villainize seed oil. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, right? I think that the fact that I think we have to parse out that seed oils are in and of themselves have been actually shown to be protective in many studies for the heart and protective for a lot of inflammatory pathways. But what are seed oils in? Seed oils are in a lot of ultra processed foods. So instead of focusing on that one ingredient, which you can easily say, oh, that's why we should focus on butter and all the other saturated fats, we need to take a little, you're missing the forest for the trees. That's like my favorite saying now. But you have to take a step back and say, hey, like maybe it's because it's in the Twinkie, they're using palm oil or they're using like soybean oil. Maybe it's not the soybean oil. Maybe it's the fact that you're eating like a tube of icing, right? In a fluffy, perfect yellow cylinder, So I think that you have to realize that it's not the seed oils, it's probably what the seed oils are being used to create, which is highly processed foods that can be very addictive.
Yeah, and it's like hard to separate, like you said, like what's the seed oil and what's the actual food. And like the studies on just seed oil don't show that.
Exactly.
So concentrate. And it's funny because we're laughing because it was like seed oils, and he's like, I guess like the artificial colors and flavors are also like a really hot topic in the US population because, that's a big MAHA movement thing. Yep. And it's interesting because like what kind of catches people's attention and what ends up being a trend. Whereas like, we're trying to get fiber to be trending, right?
Yes,
and it's not necessarily, I mean, there is a lot more, I would say, there's a lot more people interested in gut health.
Yes.
But fiber still has an issue with like, I actually have people, and I'll tell you my favorite fiber sources, but I actually have people who are like, what is fiber? Like, and which is understandable because we never get taught that in school. Yep. So like people don't even understand where they're supposed to get fiber besides a fiber supplement. So what are your favorite sources of fiber? And I'll kind of share some of mine.
Yeah. My favorite source of fiber. So I think that, it's funny when you talk about seed oils, I'm like actually from seeds, right? So I think that flax and chia seeds are kind of the easiest hack because they're so easy chia is even easier. I mean, flax sometimes, baking, anything you're baking, waffles, anything, you can throw it in there and it won't change the taste. It actually will enhance the texture and make it more like an egg, kind of a binding agent, but you get a bunch of fiber with that. Same with chia seeds. You put it in any smoothie, you put it on top of your yogurt and just, it becomes like basically a pudding if you let it sit there long enough, or you can eat it right away and it'll just expand, as you're eating it. So those are my two favorite kind of easy ways to get 5 to 10 grams of fiber. Even if you just put like a full serving, you get like 8 grams of fiber, I think, with that. And then I think psyllium husk is an excellent one, especially people that you're dealing with a little bit of especially when you're on a high protein diet. If you just started, that's one of the things you end up getting is you get pretty constipated because you're focusing less on carbs, and fiber by definition is a carb. So if you are very low carb, you're not going to get as much fiber. So a lot of people will get constipated and slow down. So I think psyllium husk is a great option to put into smoothie or something like that, and that helps with the fiber as well. And then you can't forget about the types of breads you eat. I mean, sprouted breads, there's a lot of breads that have like the 7-seed, ancient grain bread, things like that have very good fiber. You just have to always weigh the burden of non-fiber carbs in all of these things because the problem is sometimes you can go overboard. If you try to get 30 grams from bread, you're going to get like 100 grams of carbs in that as well. But for example, flax and chia are really powerhouses because you get a very compact kind of nutrient profile, and it's very effective for, especially when you're trying to minimize the water weight retention and weight gain from too big of a carb load.
I love chia seeds. Like 1 tablespoon in anything, water even, any recipe, like you said, 5 grams just added right there. And like, there's a saying like for most Americans, every 5 grams of fiber you add, you're extending their life by 10 years, all-cause mortality, because we're getting so little fiber that adding fiber can have such an impact on our lives. I love blueberries and I love avocados as my source of fiber as well. Those are like my favorites. And then, what about your favorite probiotic foods or fermented foods?
I love any kind of pickled vegetables. So we pickle onions for when you make black bean burgers or something. So we'll pickle a whole jar of onion. The kids love it. We love it. And so easy to make. I mean, it's like vinegar, a little bit of sugar to let the fermentation happen. And you just put hot water and that's it. I mean, and you get excellent probiotics just with that. Yogurt obviously is a great source, and kefir yogurt is even better, right? Because that's it's ultra filtered. You get a lot of the lactose digested already from the high amounts of probiotics. So I think those are my go-tos. Just really any kind of pickled vegetables and also the yogurt. So just make sure you're getting a good amount of yogurt in your diet.
Do you know the pickled onion recipe offhand, or will you share that with us so we can put it in the show notes?
I can give you like I'll
a short version, and then give me the official version.
Yeah, it's literally it's like 1 cup of vinegar, 2 cups of hot water, or warm, not like scalding hot, but just like hot water, and then just as many vegetables as you want. So red onions seem to pickle the best, but cucumbers obviously you can do, and then you can put whatever spice. The beauty of that, you can spice it the way you want. So like you want to put peppercorn in it, you want to put fresh garlic cloves to kind of let the garlic kind of infuse, and you just put it in any mason jar you have with an airtight lid, and you can even use like old pasta sauce bottle and just wash it out. You put it in your fridge; it lasts for 2 weeks, so you can use it again and again. You could throw it onto anything, and so.
But do you keep it on your counter at all to like?
Yeah, in the beginning.
Yeah.
So for the first I think hour, you let it get to room temperature. Once it's at room temperature, I think that you've kind of let the fermentation happen. And so after we use it, we usually keep it out until we're done with it, but the evening. So it's out for a few hours, and then we put it in the fridge after that, just so we can stay good. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you so much, first of all, for talking about hot topics, for being on. I know that everyone's going to want to follow you and get to know you a little bit better. And I know that you're been much more active on social media, which is super exciting. So tell us where to find you and get more information about you.
Yeah, sure. So it's easy. It's Gutbuster MD, GUTBUSTER MD, and it's on TikTok and it's on Instagram. So I usually cross post. So if you prefer one platform or the other, you'll probably find very similar videos on both. I have minimized my dancing videos, but you never know, it might come back.
Dancing might come back. You never know. You never danced when you were a kid, but now dancing is your thing.
I'm making up for it. Yeah.
That's so funny. I never could do the dancing videos. It just wasn't my thing. I was so happy when it wasn't as trendy. Like during COVID, I was like, oh my God, I cannot.
I can't
and
do
I
that.
did some, but really did not
but
love it.
The moves the kids have these days is impossible to recreate. So I do the geriatric versions that that don't require too much hip movements, and I usually can try those.
That's amazing. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. I know you're super busy, so I really appreciate your time. I think everybody's going to find a lot of value in this. And then you guys should follow Gutbuster. Is it Gutbuster MD or Gutbuster?
Gutbuster MD.
Gutbuster. Follow at Gutbuster MD, and we'll try to do this again. Another hot topics coming up in the future.
Okay, can't wait. That sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching.